I'm an old Milwaukee guy, Steve, and like I always operate on the I operate on the knowledge, knowing that if there's blood on the paper, then I'm okay. If there's blood in the bowl, then we got an issue, right?
So there's a few things we need to talk about. we need to unpack here.
Welcome back to Show Me Yours podcast, everybody. I'm Jackie Agnew.
I'm Jonny DeVito.
And I'm Ty Boissano. Hey, gang, who do we got in the new studio today?
Who do we got in the studio, Jack?
Well, we have one of the most hilarious people in Vancouver, in the country.
Goddamn
I
right.
would say Steev Letts, everybody.
Hell yeah, dude. Let's go.
Fuck yeah. If you don't know him from the fantastic album Burger Queen, then stop this episode, go listen to that, and then come back.
Thank you. Solid plug, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, dude,
I got you.
You're fucking hilarious, man. Like, I remember watching you before, just getting into fully stand-up. I'm like, goddamn. So we're super pumped that you're on this.
Yeah.
Thanks,
episode.
man. Happy to be here. Really
Every
happy
once
to
in a
be
while,
here.
we try to get a good comic on the show. So this is
We've had lots of good comments.
And then, and that's the other thing about you. You're a fucking sweetheart too. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you having me in the new studio. I didn't know this was a new setup. It looks very professional as fuck.
Yeah, it's just my
Tyler
living
also
room.
just showed me his mushroom growing capabilities here in the home, and it's fucking involved.
It
Yeah,
got a little
it is very
intense.
involved.
It got a little intense
It's-
over.
You devote
Yeah.
more square footage to mushrooms than most people do to I would argue that you have more space for mushrooms than some people have space.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
totally.
Hey,
Absolutely.
but
Yeah,
here's the
squeezed
difference.
us out of the
Here's the
studio.
difference. I could have a human living there, but the humans don't pay rent as well as those can.
No judgment. I was just I was impressed by the scale of your operation.
Yeah.
It
Well,
just
that
got a
was-
pretty
Those are
big upgrade.
non-hallucinogenic
Yeah.
mushrooms, by the way. I'm not
Right.
ratting anyone out here.
course.
No.
The dude
Mushrooms.
digs spores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was actually the old studio, and we got evicted by the mushrooms.
Okay.
Yeah,
We
that's
did get
right.
evicted by it. I will
When
say
this
though,
podcast starts turning a fucking profit, we can talk about that room.
Come back, Manscaped. Jesus Christ.
I'm just gonna say it. Jack, it's all your goddamn fault. Okay?
Yeah, I know,
we were
I
in there
know,
when and Jackie's like, I think I had a lot of blocks in the my little fruiting chamber. And she was like, so when are you gonna get a second tent? And I was like,
Yeah.
and then I thought
Few
about it
weeks
for
later,
8
planted
hours.
that spore.
I know. Yeah.
Hey, here we go.
That's why he's that
A
guy.
few weeks later, he's like, so what do you think about moving out to the living room for the podcast?
Well, it's great out here.
No,
Yeah,
totally.
no, it's
I was
actually a
stoned the
way
whole
more
time. I had no
comfortable
idea
setup.
that there was ulterior motives and stuff like that. But I like to see the passion in somebody. Like when a friend just gets into something all of a sudden, you never really know. I half-ass a million things, right? Like I have guitars on the wall that I don't really know how to play.
Same.
You know what I mean, right?
I play poorly. But
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Couple chords and shit. Ty masters that kind of stuff, right? When Ty gets into mushrooms, he devotes like you said, a more room than most people have square footage in their life.
Like I
right?
said, people don't
No,
understand how I
I
became a drug addict, and I'm like, imagine that much dedication to go with substance.
No, I mean, if you added amphetamines to the mix, man,
Oh,
you would-
bud,
Oh
yeah,
my
yeah,
God.
like
yeah.
a shrine built, a throne built out of the mushrooms.
That would be the problem, I think.
No,
with
there'd be no
amphetamines,
money
like-
for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's such a waiting game, right? And I don't know about you guys, but when I'm cranking down, you know what I mean. I really everything is
cranking down. You know.
everything. There's a sense of urgency to everything that I do.
Sure.
you know, Yeah.
No, and that's true because you were like, "Here's the thing." So I break this millet down, and then I pressure cook it, and then I put it in the fridge, and then boom, 9 days later, I wait 9 more days. And I'm like, wow, this is a very man.
That is I love it. Like I've only been doing it for like a year, but I've only been doing it for a year, and it's like I've watched a gazillion videos and all this stuff. Steve just broke it down the best I've ever heard. Whoa, 9 days later, we get to wait 9 more days.
Basically,
That's
but
all
I
it
do
is.
appreciate your passion for it, and like my husband is the same way, but it's always like a sport. Like he's into curling so
Okay.
much that
Okay.
he records curling and
Yeah.
do you have any idea how much fucking curling they record?
That
Man,
way,
it's all
it's
over
on
the
TV
place.
all the time.
Yeah.
raised
But
by
he'll,
my
like,
grandpa, so it
when
was
we
like
got into
golf and then
softball,
curling. Yeah.
when we got into softball, he's watching YouTube tutorials on how to swing a bat. Like,
That's what's so great about it.
Whereas
now.
I
That's
just
awesome.
like show up with like a little bit of heart and expect to coast by on charm, and if
Yeah.
that doesn't
Yeah.
work out, I quit.
Yeah,
And that's-
exactly.
And 99% 99% of the time, I bet you're crushing
probably
at the
works,
softball
yeah.
game.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, Steve! Like I mean, you might you might have just passed yourself up, but you're kind of built like an athlete. Like I bet in the box you could probably, you could probably crack a dinger or two.
One or two, yeah, but I'm predictable. I always hit to the same spot. But, but
okay.
once in a while, yeah, I still get it past him.
You going
Yeah.
right?
I do. I shank right. I think I have a wonky swing, but I'm strong enough that it doesn't matter.
Hey, fair enough.
there you go.
Yeah. If you can get
Yeah.
it deep enough there, like I think if you could kind of pepper the like the middle ground or whatever, and just advance bases and stuff like that, that's
really
you
the
need.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you need
Well,
somebody
and
in the dugout that can.
Now
do
that I'm
Yeah.
like on the doorstep of 39, like as you pass 40, like you can't be a power hitter forever. So
Oh,
you either
yeah.
learn to place it or you blow your shoulder out and like become addicted to
There's
painkillers.
nothing worse
Yeah.
than not being able to go to work because of a softball game. Well,
that's
like,
the
oh, I blew my shit out.
yeah,
like,
or the oxy injury that follows it, or the oxy addiction that follows that
Exactly.
injury. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
What
If
Yeah.
you do, it's always funny when I had an ex that got super into softball in the Okanagan and Vernon. It's massive, so they always have this tournament at the top of the hill. There, they have all these fields where everybody comes in from all over the province to compete beer league softball, and it's the funnest event. But they have ambulances lined up because of how many guys are blowing their knees out, sliding into home and shit
oh
like
yeah,
that.
Oh my
MCL and
God.
ACL
Or
all
even
day.
even just taking off from like once you connect and taking off towards first base, you just hear people's fucking Achilles pop.
Yeah,
Like,
dude.
Oh
because
my
it's
God.
it's
When
people
are these
who don't
people-
work out for the rest of the year all of a sudden start
Exactly.
sprinting all of the and like
Yeah.
nobody stretches before or after. Everyone
Yeah.
scolds each other for not stretching but doesn't stretch themselves.
Totally.
Yeah,
The same every way.
And they
So-
have the base run through rule, which is so fat guy baseball that I absolutely love because for fans that for people that don't know baseball, you can run through first base, you know what I mean, to really
Yeah.
sprint to get there, but everything else you kind of have to stop on second, stop on third, and not in beer league softball, I guess, because so many injuries that you can.
That's
if you
sorry,
get,
that's
because if you
stuff.
get up
Oh.
to speed, then you can't stop on a dime on second base or whatever because you'll blow your shit out, right? So you can have a fat guy really run through every base and slow down the appropriate. You can still run as fast as you can to that base, but it's going to take you a little bit of time to get to a stop. Right,
yeah.
which is hilarious to watch, but I love it.
Yeah, I've heard recently that so many of those like injuries, it's the explosive like power without the explosive strength to back it up. Yeah,
You just
so
described
it's
my
the
entire
wanting to
yes,
be
yeah.
superhuman, like
Yeah.
while being a fat fuck.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's why you can't. That's why you're fucking your shit up.
I can go 0
Yeah.
to 60 pretty fast, but I go 60 to 0 even faster. Right, that's the thing. Yeah.
When you're not running and shit like that, though, I remember like I remember just like joining a softball league and then fucking just booking it around the bases, and the next day I was like, okay, like you don't
Right.
when you sprint, sir. What are
Yeah.
you doing?
I'm
Oh,
giving all
okay.
of this knowledge as somebody that just drank on the sidelines. I never actually competed on any of the teams. I would show up to a practice and I actually hit one home run, best moment of my
And
life.
then you're done.
But not in
That's
a
the
game.
problem, though. You see, you
Exactly.
peaked.
Oh, dude.
Yeah,
Way
no,
too
I
early.
have a lasting rib injury from coughing too much this flu season.
Yeah.
It's
really
really
put our-
fucked my shit
yeah.
up.
We put our
Yeah.
athleticism to the test one time over the
Yeah.
Christmas break, and we just realized that we should probably, we should get out a little more.
Yeah.
I think. Steve, what are you doing to stay active? Knocking on the door of 40.
I'm just mixing it up and doing a little bit of everything these
Yeah.
days. Like I have a gym across the street from where we are, and since I got sober, I'm at the gym a lot. Like I don't. It's
Yeah, it's a great replacement.
I didn't realize like I have a ton of energy and no fucking hobbies, so
Right.
I
Hey.
just
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
go lift heavy stuff, and also I've been doing like a little bit of Pilates and a little bit of like hot yoga and
Fuck
just,
yeah.
just for the fuck of it,
Yeah.
just to burn calories so I can earn sleep at night. That's
Totally.
really all it's about.
Yeah.
Do you find if you don't, then the brain just doesn't turn off?
Yeah, man. I have
okay.
well, like I have like maintenance insomnia, so I can fall asleep with relative ease the first time, but I wake up every 3 hours super wide.
Oh,
And it's
Very
worse.
similar,
It's
yeah.
worse if I don't exercise a lot. Like if I
Yeah.
can get a solid burn in every day, it's
Yeah.
more manageable at least.
For sure.
Totally. Yeah.
I think I need to look into that because a lot of the there's a lot of cool things that are happening in life, but the fact that I'm gonna have to like work my job for an extended period of time or whatever is pretty like it's so clear to me. But I'm looking at the future so much that I'm like. I just have to kind of get through this one job that I'm on right now. But I work a pretty physical job. So then after that, the idea of like getting my heart rate to a point. You know what I mean? If you work like 8 hours where you're just, where you're doing physical shit, and then kind of, but not getting like that, like endorphin release or whatever.
Right.
Then coming home. And I think the fact that I smoke like way too much weed in my 30s too is probably like, messing with that, because I'm looking more forward to the nap in the end of the day and then kind of staying up through the evening. Cause I'm terrible at sleeping at night. I had a problem last night, actually. I don't know what, shit. How do you combat that other than getting physically fit? Is there a way that I can do this? I'm talking myself into fitness right now, and I'm not into that.
No, I mean, I use fucking melatonin and magnesium and shit too. Like I do everything I can to just try and get
Are you
to
nap
sleep.
guy?
No, I'm not allowed to nap. Like napping fucks with your sleep drive. So if you nap during the day, you're less likely to sleep through the night. So
I live for the nap.
It's like trying to stay hydrated throughout the day, but stop drinking at a point so that it doesn't make me have to get up and piss an extra number of times. That like being 38 already, like there's one guaranteed piss per night.
Yeah.
So, just all this shit to take into account, and I
You
just
can put
hate
the
like
beers down,
I hate
but
having
you're
to put
still-
so much
yeah.
focus into like getting enough sleep. Like there are some studies that say that like uniphasic sleep, I think that it's called, when it's like one solid period throughout the night, is something that's relatively new. That's not something we always did, and it's like back in the day, people got up for a few hours in the night. I'm like, yeah, but those people lived to be like 60, didn't they? That's probably a contributing factor. We don't want to go back to that.
Totally.
So I like, ever since I got a Fitbit, I'm always like tracking how much I sleep. But then if you're getting consistently bad sleep, then you're like losing sleep over how little sleep you're getting.
That's
like,
right.
it's
Oh,
just,
man.
just another
That's
thing to fucking
worry
feel
about.
inadequate for doing poorly.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
I hate focusing on it, but I still
Yeah.
want to do it well.
Yeah.
You and I have a similar
totally,
timeline as far as like I'm not that much younger. Like I'm 35, and also been like sober around the same time. I'm California sober, but it's like
California sober meaning alcohol and weed?
no, just weed.
Okay, same.
Yeah. Cool. And then
And
and
mushrooms.
mushrooms.
Yeah.
And then-
I've tried mushrooms twice since getting sober. I've been sober 3 years as of January 1st. Like
Get it.
I say
Get
off-
it.
off
You're one of the-
booze
you
and
want-
hard
hey, man,
drugs.
that's fucking
off
awesome.
booze and hard drugs, because it's
Yeah.
whatever. You take
Yeah.
what you need from it. But
Yeah.
That's huge, man.
no, mushrooms are not fucking for me at all.
Really?
Like,
Yeah.
there's not a dose micro enough for
Really?
mushrooms. I always panic. So
Yeah, I hear it,
Just
and I don't
weed.
want to
Yeah.
say they were like a big part of my recovery, but definitely a part of my recovery. Like
I
and
know
like
that-
to like just specifically just one particular time, and I did a different strain of them than I'd ever done before too, a different genus of mushrooms that I've ever done before, and that was like on top of therapy, meditation,
Yeah.
working out, a whole bunch of other
Right,
shit
right,
to
right.
like you know.
So this was microdosing?
No, this was a macro dose. This was like,
This
we
full
got
dose.
work to do. We're going to do work today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those kind of situations. And then I really processed it like afterwards, but like it wasn't like, I know a lot of people that like contribute, go to one ayahuasca trip and they're fucking like, they're fixed. And I'm like, it's not the case. Like,
I always
I've
look
done a
at
lot of
it-
hallucinogenics before and still wanted to do cocaine.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I look at it
Yeah.
as like drug use, and if you've ever like mixed drugs and stuff like that, like cocaine and mushrooms in a Shambhala situation is one of the most fun that you'll ever have in your entire life.
I think I've learned to
Right.
use them as a real like kind of tool, and
Yeah.
because I'm so in tune with it, I just do feel in tune with them. I'm able to use them as a like. I know when I'm just like, I just want. Sometimes you go into being like, I just want to happy, like I just want to laugh a little bit and like, whatever,
Totally, yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the mushrooms just have a different idea
Yeah,
of like
they're
what
like,
you
oh,
actually need that day.
no.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you thought
dumb
like, it
bitch.
happened to me.
Yeah.
I mean, like 2 Sundays ago, that I was with my girlfriend and I had 2 grams of this penis envy mushroom that are like really strong psilocybin mushrooms, but. And I was like, we're just gonna have a good chill day at home, or
Those small
it was
amounts,
like,
man, that
yo,
2
dude, I
grams
went
will
into
fuck
some
you up.
fucking shit. It's so
Yeah.
crazy, but it was like it was super like good. But I'm able to kind of use them in that kind of way, but not totally be like, oh, they're the sole reason why I'm staying
Yeah.
clean or
Totally.
anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy talk.
That is
Yeah.
crazy
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, like, I think with, like, if you, were you just finding that, like, was it too much for too long, or was it like a rock bottom situation where you're, like, where you just kind of went,
Like before I
too far,
got
too
sober?
fast? Yeah.
It was kind of like I'd been flirting with sobriety for a while. Like I had done a sober September or a dry January, and I did a 3-month period, I think in 2018. And felt great, and felt physical differences and like emotional differences, and So I had just kind of been like thinking about it because like the thing is, it always snowballed back to the same point. As soon as I start drinking, within a month, I'm back to drinking as hard as I was. Where I'm having like a magnum of wine and 2 tall boys a day, and you know what I mean. Like it's expensive, and I looked tired, and you know what I mean. Like I felt like shit. I felt winded putting my boots on. You know, like I felt so worn down for 35 years old, and I'd been going hard since 15, and I just sort of figured like. I think certain people can be moderate, and I think certain people have to be abstinent. And like I don't see myself ever being moderate with booze, and I don't also like working in restaurants for a lot of years.
Buddy.
Working in restaurants for a lot of years.
You
see regulars dying before your eyes when you work in bars. You see these fucking people succumbing to cirrhosis after years of casual alcohol abuse, and you know dropping dead of heart attacks at 54 years old. With kids they haven't spoken to in years, and I'm like, I'm not fucking doing that. It was just. So it wasn't like a rock bottom situation. I had a series of rock bottoms. I had some very embarrassing situations. I've lost jobs and stuff because of alcohol and drug use, but ultimately like I quit on New Year's Day like thinking like I'll try this for a year and see how I feel, and if it feels right, then I'll just keep going, and that's what that's how it's been. And so weed has stayed in the picture. I would like to be completely like raw dogging reality, and I admire people who do that, and you know I would like to get to that point eventually, but I've allowed myself to fall back on weed use, and just like if this is what it takes, then so be it. Like the worst thing that ever happens when I consume cannabis is that I overeat and I underachieve. And neither of those are great if you do them continuously, but it's not the same thing as like you don't destroy relationships, and at least for me.
And it's just never. I've never smoked weed and been like, I'm gonna call a coke dealer, or like it's also just like, and like I don't know about you, but like when I was using, and like how quickly weed gets bullied out of the way by the bigger drug, like cocaine comes in, it's like move over, you fucking pussy, like
talk to you in the morning.
Fucking and I used to delay smoking weed because it would make me think about all the horrible decisions I've just made over the last weekend or whatever, right? Like,
totally.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that reality check at the end of the weekend, or like even walking home and like living for the party or whatever. But that party always kind of ends, and like the Monday morning birds chirp walking home, or you know what I mean, right? Like all those. I can't. It's the idea where you're like, I can't believe this is fucking happening again. You know what I mean? And I think in like dabbling or like working on moderation or whatever, it's interesting because with me and Jackie, like we met, like, you know what I mean, at film school, definitely like surrounded by booze and stuff like that. And then kind of like living together now, it's how does where do you see it going like long term? Because I got gifted a bottle of whiskey for Christmas, and I was very excited about it. And it's like it's like a Texas Mickey, like a handle, like 2 liters of Crown Royal.
That's a lot of whiskey.
Fuck yeah, dude! I was stoked. I'm like, we're gonna have whiskey forever. So it's what, January fucking 7th. I got like a quarter bottle of that whiskey left. You know what I mean? Because just like having it in the house and like that.
I always try to have a bar. I'll be one of those guys with a bar. Like, I had a lot of empty bottles.
Never ever in my life did I try to keep a bar. Like I've never thought myself capable of that.
When you empty the one bottle, like you either like you're struggling because you have like I got like a quarter bottle of gin or whatever that's just left over from that one night, and half a bottle of vodka here, and then you bring something else in. It's when you like you know, because you'll kill one bottle and then bring one back in or whatever, right? But eventually there's gonna come a time where you're gonna open up that drawer and be like, we're fucking this whole thing up tonight.
Yeah. And because you get home from the bar. And
I've done it multiple times. Yeah, exactly. And you just like you know, you just kind of get into it. And I think that's the it's the danger of knowing where I'm capable of going and where I like to go, rather than where I'm just like kind of comfortable, you know, getting through the week or whatever, having a couple drink at shows, or you know what I mean. It's that part is fine, but oh my goodness, am I capable of just not answering my phone for a couple days?
Oh sure.
And like, you know what I mean, right? And it's like that. Those are the, you know, like the few and far between ones or whatever that you know, you kind of like wanting to get away from, but surrounding myself with like not even like with just high or whatever. Like my dad's been sober for, you know what I mean, 25 years or whatever. Jackie's dad's too. Like there's so many, you know, strong sober people or whatever that give you good advice in your life, and I'm just like cracking another beer while I'm soaking it in.
I mean, everybody on their own time, if that is their path.
I think
such a case to case basis of how people process it, like genetically, and then situational stuff of how you brought out. There's so many fucking variables. It's so different from person to person. And so I can never like knock any type of way that someone has gotten clean. Like I'll be honest, I'm not a big AA guy, but I know a lot of people that have gotten clean that way. And it's like, I can't possibly shit on this program that I've gone through, but it's like, I I can't hate on it. It's like,
Yeah.
if it helped this person, then what the fuck? Who am I?
Yeah.
Totally.
Like,
Well,
you know?
I mean,
like-
the same can honestly be said of like religion. Some people have successfully used faith to get out of horrible, crippling addictions.
100%.
So be it. And I mean, a lot of people's problem with AA or NA is that it is largely faith-based.
faith-based.
There's a lot of mentions of higher power, God, whatever.
Yeah.
And I myself am not like working the steps or whatever, but I have like attended groups and they've been great.
Of course, yeah. It's like
So
you
it's-
surround yourself by other people people that have been pretty successful at
Yeah,
it.
I think the language has changed over the last decade or so from being like completely dogmatic and like there's only one way to do things to I think a lot of people, regardless of how they themselves are doing it, agree that like take what you need and
For sure.
whatever you can, do what you can.
Well,
think,
that's like
the-
exactly like my dad. He's 35 years sober, and he credits like AA with his life. But that being said, he doesn't like follow that anymore. Like he doesn't go to meetings anymore. Doesn't like do the steps or whatever. But he like for a period of time, it was like what he needed. But then
Yeah.
Totally.
could kind of
Then didn't do it. Like it's like
Yeah.
whatever you.
I think like that's
Yeah.
for it's everybody kind of takes what they need from it, right? But I think the something inspiring from it or whatever that I see my dad doing. It's like it's the constant like service or whatever, right? That so he's done so much for him that he'll still like they've left whatever like group that they were in and kind of like found their own because these guys have been getting sober together for 30 years or whatever, and they'll introduce new people into the group and stuff like that, and they have like a running joke or whatever. There's always a spot for me at Pizza Hut when I get my shit together or whatever, and it's cool knowing that like that there's a knowledge branch always kind of extended or whatever, and people that kind of do this not only for other people because they see the therapy that it helps them. So like what I mean, he my pops works a intense job and he's an intense guy, right? And raw dog in life, as you say, is fucking very difficult to do when you're replacing serious addiction with just life, right? And then kind of getting through that day. When it snowed, like Snowmageddon or whatever, I asked him like how long it took him to get to work, and I was like, well, fucking 2.5 hours took me to shovel the fucking snow. And I'm like, you just had to shovel in your driveway. And he goes, no, fuck, you know me, John. I had to go all the way around the house to the back and the alley and all this shit. I'm like,
Neighbors.
well, you fucking do this to yourself, right?
Yeah.
And then, but because of that, like he knows that on Tuesday or whatever, there's always like, a place to at least get that off the chest and shit. And like so you can, I've been to a few of those meetings myself, trying to find, what am I going to do or whatever. And, probably not being ready at the time stepping into those rooms or whatever, because you're hearing a lot of these stories and you're like, fuck, man, I don't even have half of this.
Yeah, that's a dangerous game to play at an AA meeting.
I'm
To
like,
look at
I'm
the
cool,
comparison,
man.
you're like,
I'm
well, I didn't
good.
black out and wake up 2 years later married in Georgia.
Man, I thought I had a problem. You should see these fucking losers.
Wow.
No,
If anything, I wanted to bring my notebook and be like, fucking
Damn,
punch
this
up my
guy's
bits with some of these guys' experience.
This guy's depressing. It makes me want to have a beer.
yeah.
I've left. I like
No
that joke.
wonder you drink so much.
Have
Yeah.
you ever left an AA meeting and like fucking and like everybody's kind of standing outside afterwards having a cigarette? You go like, well, who needs a beer?
Yeah.
She's never bombed harder. Than So I just knew I wasn't ready.
It is. It is a cool place to be at, though. Like again, I'm the same. I'm only 3 years, so it's quite young, and as far as being sober and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I also being a person who's mid to late 30s. To being a little more, this is the most in tune with my body I've ever been. Like, as far as knowing what I need, and I can know when it's like, you need to have a fucking salad today, or like, you just need some greens, or like, you just need fucking water's really good right now, or like, you know what I mean? Like, just knowing a little bit more and being able to listen to my body. I feel like before there was so many chemicals washing through me that I was like, it was impossible to communicate.
And also, more specifically, we're talking about bowel movements here, right? Like this whole I don't
Steve,
have
let's get into
diarrhea
it.
multiple times a week. This is amazing. I can't remember the last time I shat so frequently that my asshole tore from over wiping.
Oh my god.
That's not a normal part of life, you guys. That's beer. That's just draft beer.
I'm an old Milwaukee guy, Steve, and like I always operate on the I operate on the knowledge, knowing that if there's blood on the paper, then I'm okay. If there's blood in the bowl, then we got an issue, right?
So there's a few things we need to talk about. We need to unpack here. First of all, are you guys not on bidet yet?
Okay, so we're
trying to get
looking
the
into a
sponsorship.
tushy. We're looking into a tushy, yes.
You guys, no, don't get a tushy.
Okay.
Fuck them
No.
in their marketing.
Okay.
Just get one of the no-name ones off
Okay.
of Amazon or whatever for $60.
Oh, okay. Sick. Okay.
Any bidet experience I have had, marvelous.
Oh,
Oh,
I love
yeah. Never a bad bidet.
I
Never
almost-
a bad
people who
bidet,
are not on bidet don't realize that
They've
they're
never
like
had
they're
it.
walking around with barnyard butt. Like you have no idea.
Had
Like
BB,
you have
had
not
B-
yet been liberated to what it feels like to have a clean ass, and like that seems like overzealous. That's not hyperbole. It's really like you're gonna use less toilet paper. You're gonna feel cleaner. You'll
That's
never wipe yourself raw
Yeah.
again.
I always kind of
Okay.
feel like I like maybe if it was like a class structure or whatever like that I'm bred in. There's some things that like I'm just not like.
Oh, you don't
that's
think
not
you don't
for
think
me.
you're worthy of a bidet, Johnny?
Sometimes because I shit in blue porta potty outhouses at construction sites. So there's going to be a time that if I
So when you're
if,
at
if
home,
I can't let myself get too
pamper
accustomed
that
to
pooper, bud.
discomfort
Yeah.
because one day it's going to be taken away from me and I'm not gonna be able to stomach that. So I'll live like a Neanderthal because I don't think that, you know what I mean, I'm going to have this luxury forever. But maybe I just need to forgive myself and other people.
You need to forgive
I
yourself.
think
You deserve it.
you don't deserve it. Even for a time, or like you don't deserve that joy for, you know what I mean? Like, 'cause
I
it
think
might
that-
get
Or
taken
you
away
just don't
from
want to
you.
fuck with high
Don't-
society?
No,
Or
well,
is that
that's-
your
no,
own
there's a lot of
judgments
things- I
on
don't
what a
wanna
bidet can do for you?
I don't
Yeah.
want to abuse the power because it's so good. And I just spent, when we went to Seattle, I spent 20 minutes just washing my asshole, just like on, and it felt great.
As a plumber, how do you not love a bidet?
Yeah, right.
I had a
It's right up
roommate.
your alley.
I had a roommate.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mozzie, did an episode of the show. Fantastic writer. He had
yeah. Bum gun.
it was the bum gun. It was
Yeah.
culturally. He's like, why doesn't anybody fuck with bidets? Like just white people or whatever, right? So it's
Yeah.
always
Tin Lorica also, to Tin's credit, has had a bit about how like white people wipe their ass wrong and like about bidet usage and other things for a long time ago. So shout out to Tin. That's their bit.
I absolutely. I think that the thing is that when it's like when it's hooked up straight to the cold water coming in, this was an actual bidet that you sit on. This is basically just a hose that comes and you kind of hook
Yeah.
it to the side of the toilet, and then you take it like a vegetable washer on the side of the sink, and you just take that and you just blast your asshole with it, and it's the greatest. Like cool down, especially like in the summer during a heat wave or
Oh,
something.
yeah,
Get the
love
fuck
it.
out of
And
here.
as a clean
Yeah.
freak, those ones are great because you can use it to spray the inside of your bowl when you clean the
it
toilet, which is
clean.
not something you can normally do.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's a good tip.
So like, I think that it's something that I'm definitely open to, and I want to treat your butthole the way that it
Oh,
deserves to be
that's
treated.
very
So I
nice.
think
So romantic.
that-
Very sweet.
Such a sweetheart.
yeah. Because it's dinner time.
It's a win-win.
Yeah,
I do think so, right? But like, I mean, I'm an adult now, and I think like the butt play has been like dropped off significantly in my later life, and I think that if that's something that we can introduce that can maybe bring that back, then maybe it could be dinner time for you too.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that.
Not on the internet, Johnny. Not
That
on
was
the
a
internet.
resounding no.
We used to do fun stuff. Speaking of people who probably get their buttholes licked, Josh Homme, Queens of the Stone Age, my friend, you brought in a fantastic record. But do we talk? Where do we go? Do we talk about the music first, or do we talk about the man?
Let's talk about the
We
music
talk
first.
about that you look a little bit like the man.
I was gonna say,
You know what? I have been told that once or
Of
twice,
course.
and I'm flattered. He's a babe.
man dime for sure.
But I chose this album because I'm a huge Queens of the Stone Age fan, and this came out back when I worked in a record store, back in like 2001.
Not just any record.
Not just
yes,
any
at
record.
A&B Sound.
The beacon,
in
the
Victoria.
purple
So
building. When
it
you
was-
see it, you know.
It was the coolest.
Amy's Sound was the shit.
There was
man.
there was a jazz room and a classical room. That's the kind
Yeah.
of square footage just
Oh.
CDs it had.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it's like it was huge.
Wow.
And there was this nerdy guy in the warehouse who I used to like middleman weed for, and he told me that this was my generation's White Album, and I still don't know what he means by that, but I fucking love this album.
Yeah, not even the
that's
best Beatles album, which is I don't
Yeah,
understand
like,
like
I
why
don't
you're like
understand
repping
what
that. If
that
you would have said
reference-
Abbey Road, it would have been more sense to me. I get
Yeah.
the White Album, well, whatever, but like, what are we talking about?
You have such a hard on for the White Album. I don't understand.
Yeah,
People
I-
had such a hard
yeah.
on for this album when it came out. I felt like this was like the new breath of rock and roll. Like it was almost kind of coming back, right? Definitely like the Foo Fighters have always been there. As like a punk rock kid, I looked at this band like, stop trying to shove this down my fucking throat, because like everybody that is a fan of like rock and roll music or whatever, it seems like from my perspective, it's kind of like my dad's generation, and like everybody that was older than me was either like we're gonna listen to like AC/DC or like Iron Maiden or whatever like the your quintessential bands are, and then anything that Dave Grohl does. So like we're big fans of fucking Nirvana or whatever, and then now the Foo Fighters come through, so it's more like mainstream or accessible rock or whatever for my generation. And when Queens of the Stone Age came out, just because he's in the back with like on the drums, it was a very cool video. You know what I mean? The third track on this album.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, fuck off.
More Dave Grohl?
Yeah,
no, but
exactly.
I mean,
Which
but he
is
hits
silly.
so fucking hard.
I listened to it
And
today.
really the first
Yeah.
time that he's like in as far as like public is concerned, see him playing drums again since
Very
the death
Right.
of Kurt Cobain.
Absolutely.
And everyone like loves him as a front man, but like he hits so hard. He's such a magical drummer
Fuck
that
yeah.
it was just so exciting to see. I know what you mean. Even just seeing the little piece of him in the video, you're like,
Yeah.
oh fuck yes.
Especially for people like around our age, like I definitely listened to Nirvana. It was the first CD I had. Was the Unplugged album. But again, it was like a little like I was pretty young to be listening to like Nevermind and stuff like
Totally,
that.
yeah.
So this was like a glimpse into like really what I maybe missed a little bit of. I was like, oh, this is
sure.
fucking Dave Grohl on drums. It was such a big fucking
Yeah.
deal. But then just this band is so tight and the music, the composition is so great. I'm just gonna say the guitar tones alone are what like I think that's why there's a lot of classic rock kind of dudes that like really identify with this shit because it's like he goes back to using the same way Grohl is like that, or of like analog this and fucking old school fucking this real tape, all this kind of shit, man.
Yeah, like they're a band that like rock and roll kind of exists, but for whatever reason, like they fucking hit so hard, almost like the Black Keys and
Well, and I
there's
think they're a
few of
band that
these
you would
bands that
classify
people-
as a just as a rock and roll band. You know what I mean? Like there were so many like with grunge and alternative and whatever. Like you would never have like Queens of the Stone Age were just like, oh, this is a fucking rock and roll band.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Something very classic about it.
It's super
Yeah.
classic.
Oh,
about it.
definitely.
All
Whatever,
those guitar
like,
tones.
misconception I had or like preconceived ideas got shoved up my ass when I started listening to it. Because front to back, it is a fucking very good record, right?
Yeah,
It's
and,
great,
I mean
yeah.
every single album they have is very fucking well made. Like the Rated R would have been a good one to do too. But whatever. It's just
What's the one with the light bulbs on it?
light bulbs. Is that just a,
It's like a
I think it's
cartoony
just-
kind of light bulb.
Oh, Era Vulgaris.
Maybe I don't know. No, it's got If I Had a Tail on it, I think.
Yeah.
Which is a fucking great song. So many amazing songs, and they just record like in the desert, right? That's like their whole fucking jam.
There's always that
That's
kind of
really
like
cool.
spooky desert vibe behind everything they
big
do.
time.
Mhm.
Yeah, for some reason, for me, it's like kind of a continuation of like there's always been spooky desert rock. Which
We
is
just
like,
we just talked about the Cramps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
But as far as
Yeah.
like, but even like smart, like
Sure.
weird desert rock, like
Yeah.
like Zappa and fucking Captain Beefheart, or all those desert bands from like the 70s. And I feel like this is just like a newer kind of like, not necessarily,
Totally.
they're not even Zappa-esque, but it's like that whole desert vibe. I don't know how it carries through, but it does. And it's
I
fucking
understand what you
awesome.
mean. I
Yeah.
totally do.
Well, there's something like cool, like unapologetic about it, that it is like as like mainstream or whatever as I thought that it was when it was like being like marketed to me or whatever. It was like,
Well,
it's
this was
just a
probably their
rebirth
most
of
commercially
something-
successful album, I think. Like they made a big push for this
Oh,
one.
for sure,
For big
right?
time, yeah.
But it's unapologetic and it is what it is, right? Like it is, so much so that like the frontman of this band or whatever is almost like he came like 10 years too late, and I think that was Rock and Roll Antics or whatever. People are like he gets so shit on, where he would just be one of the mix, 10 or 15 years ago in a mix with all these other rock stars. You know what I mean?
yeah, like
He beat up a haberdasher in London a couple months ago.
What the fuck is a haberdasher?
It's like he makes hats or
hat
something.
maker?
Yeah, yeah.
Josh Homme beat up a hat maker?
Bro, there's a lot of he's in the news, man, and I will break it down for you.
But I feel what you're saying though. I
Was
feel
this
like
a
he just-
problematic choice? Should I have been reading the news?
I was so happy that you said it because I was like, let's talk about it.
I should
No,
know
here's the
better.
deal. I'm gonna go along with this because I kind of agree with you. Where
Sure.
like I feel like he just does rock star shit,
Yeah.
and
Totally.
people don't tolerate
wrong
rock star
era.
shit anymore.
Yeah.
You can't just
Yeah.
smash a hotel room and people are like, "That was fucking dope." People are like, "Someone had to clean that up." Like,
Right?
everyone's just such a bitch now that you can't possibly be a rock star anymore.
Exactly.
It's like, that's not cool shit. He's just super dismissive in like every interview. He's like, "I fucking want to be here." Like,
Well,
but I've also seen him
Yeah.
do interviews that are like where he's into it and he like gets along with whoever's
He
interviewing
did
with
like
him.
a comedy bit where for the what and the butt guy on Tosh.0, like he showed
Oh,
up
really?
and did,
Yeah.
like a song about the what and the butt guy. Like he's just random like
He
yeah.
does
Yeah.
rockstar shit. He does what he wants to do, and
Well,
it's
they
like
did a
Exactly,
San
yeah.
Quentin
beat the
show.
shit as some guy making hats, whatever.
Exactly.
wonder when it was over.
It's
Yeah,
the
I was gonna say,
domestic
maybe
stuff.
he was in the right.
Well, it's the domestic stuff that does get a little bit shitty. He's married to Brody Dale, formerly Brody Armstrong of the Distillers fame. One of my favorite bands of all time. One of the best female-fronted, not only punk bands, like just a fantastic voice, fantastic artist. Anyway, they get married after after her divorce. And they've had like 3 kids together. Now, in the past year, all 3 of these kids have filed restraining orders against their father.
Oh,
And it's getting dicey. And there is a great courtroom transcription of some rock star shit that is very funny. So it's not very funny how they ended up there. Definitely domestic abuse or disturbance or whatever the case was. Somebody's filing for. I think they were both filing for restraining orders against each other. So definitely a tumultuous situation. I don't really know what's going on there. But in the courtroom transcription, they're asking like what led up to this big blowout. And Brody says that she hasn't released music in a long time. The Distillers famously only put out 3 records, and they're fantastic. Then she did a different band called Spinneret and has done some solo stuff. She releases music very sporadically. So on the eve of her announcing her tour, the Queens of the Stone Age announced like a similar tour or whatever, like in the similar cities and stuff like that. And Brody's like,
oh my God.
what the fuck? Like, this just seems like unnecessary and like competitive. And now we have to figure out what we're going to do with the kids and all of this shit or whatever. And Josh Homme looks at his wife in the courtroom and goes, competitive? Do you think you're on my fucking level? Do you think we're even competing with each other?
But he's not wrong.
I know, dude. That's what I'm saying. He's absolutely right.
Oh, no.
But it's just like, I when you read it.
I would just like to say that my support of songs for the deaf has nothing to do with Josh Homme's personal life or his
100%,
domestic
It's going to
affairs.
have a quick cut and then come back to
I
you
was
just not wearing a
trying to
shirt.
stir the shit up at all when I chose
Oh,
this
no.
album.
Oh, no.
It's just a shirtless Steev Letts after. Like, oh, yeah.
It'll just be a 4-minute episode. We talked about mushrooms, just mushrooms.
Yeah, every shot to you just cut from
Oh
here
my
up.
God.
Yeah.
No.
You know, and but like that's the thing. I think with every, I mean, except for like Dave Grohl, everybody has like some shit about them, right? You like we were talking about star worship and like or like idolization of artists that you respect, and it does get to that level. I think that that you have to like fucking separate the. You know what I mean? The art from the artist or whatever, because like, I mean, it's just rock and roll. Like these are fantastic songs, and it would be silly, you know what I mean, for anybody to burn this album like a fucking LeBron jersey just because, you know, I mean, unless something like more, I don't know, where do you draw the line?
Right. I don't know the details of why there are restraining orders being filed, and that is concerning. So
We'll come back for episode 2.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone knows that, but it is a fucking. It's an unbelievable record. He did a really cool. There's this great guy that does these interviews. It's called like Noise, and he's a guitar player. And then he just goes and meets up with like his guitar heroes.
Cool.
And all it is him, and they just sit side by side with the guitar each, and they just talk about certain licks or whatever with that.
Hell yeah.
And the one with Josh is fucking phenomenal because he walks through. He has so many like just tasty, simple rock and roll fucking things, but it's like he's one of those players, one of those guitar players too, similar to an Angus Young or something like that, where everyone from a glance you're like, these are all simple songs to play, but you never hear anyone play it just
Perfect.
exactly like that. Like
Yeah.
it's always a little off whenever I hear someone do a cover of something, and it's like no one can quite he's just got a certain touch with the guitar that's
You
phenomenal.
can play those few chords, but you can't play it like that person.
Yeah, and then he's all these great single lick, and I mean his fuzz tones with his distortion, like there's all these really classic pedals. He's a fucking nerd for this shit. So I appreciated being a fellow music nerd on that level. It's like,
you've seen the ranch, like
it's unbelievable.
It's crazy.
It's so
ranch?
cool. It's just
the ranch where they record. Like it's just like the rooms upon rooms of all of this equipment and shit.
I'm just like and
that's
like
cool.
similar to Dave Grohl. I think they're both like
Right.
we know Dave bought that whole like console that's like that old like. Josh has done this with every he's got every amp ever made. It's crazy. Every
I have a
old
friend
tube amp.
who excuse me. I have a friend who spent a New Year's Eve at the ranch with him, and Brody was there at the time they were together.
Shit.
And I
Hard
think
to
Helen
top
Mirren
that.
was there too.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah,
Hard to
fucking-
top that.
What a
man.
who's who? Yeah.
I don't want to brag, but I saw Randy Myers wrestle on this New Year. It was pretty fucking dope, guys.
That's
That's
close.
It
That's a
was
close
pretty
second.
close.
Randy
Yeah.
Myers
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Oh,
King.
I
yeah.
love
Just-
the guy.
Oh,
Love
absolutely
the
fucking
greatest.
hell of a wrestler too.
Oh.
The new
Oh.
Vancouver champion. So real quick, they timed the match. This is so dope. They timed the match so like the countdown was like 10, 9, and then he pinned the guy with like 3, 2, 1.
No
I
way.
mean, oh, it was fucking dope.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool.
It was it was super
Yeah.
dope. I took my girlfriend who had never like experienced a wrestling thing or like
Yeah.
seen anything.
I
and
haven't gone to local wrestling. Where is it held?
So this one it was at like the Legion on Commercial.
Mhm.
You know the upstairs. There used to be comedy there. I think there's like an
Well, I thought
upstairs
there was
room.
a bowling alley upstairs.
Bowling alley
No,
is
there's a
downstairs.
bowling
That's
alley
the
like
building,
down the street a little
next
bit.
door.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's right across the
Legion
street.
on
Yeah.
Commercial. Okay.
So it's like the Legion at Commercial, but it's like this upstairs room. It's just a big hall looking room.
Is this
Uh,
the Dolly something?
This promotion?
No,
For
no,
wrest-
no,
no,
never
no,
mind.
this
I'm
is like
thinking
boom
something
wrestling,
Okay.
which was like a very like pretty campy kind of vibe, like, but it was fucking hilarious.
Hell
There
yeah.
was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
instead of a loser, like there's always like a loser leaves town matches, right?
Right.
They had a loser leaves time match. So Abraham Lincoln was just fighting some guy, and he had to like put a dude into a time machine.
Oh my god.
He rang the bell. Yeah, it was fucking hilarious,
That
dude.
fucking-
I'm
That's
down down with any
rad.
show. I will, like I said, I will go see if it's a production. Like it is,
I
it's a
love that.
play. It's a whole thing. It's
Yeah.
just a play.
Yeah.
I will go watch fucking it. It could be like an Elvis impersonator, but if he's really good and he's playing in Abbotsford on the weekend, like
Yeah.
we're going. That's hilarious.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you guys heard about the Harlem Globetrotters coming to town? Because that's a little camp that I'm into that I'm very
They
excited
are.
about.
Yeah.
I think
Sure.
if you could add a little pageantry to anything, you just make it a little bit more
I went to
fun.
a Harlem Globetrotters basketball camp when I was a
That's
kid.
rad.
By
Whoa.
Mel Davis was his name, and he's like an old guy. And he was
How's
like,
his
Sounds,
fingers
sounds
used-
like an old guy.
Used to
yeah.
be a Harlem Globetrotter back in like the fucking 80s. This dude was like, I don't know, I want to say like definitely in his 60s by this point when I was in there. And like to the day, just sitting at half court, just fucking goosh, just buckets all day long. Like
Oh
no
my
problem.
God.
Like
Oh
doing
my
the
God.
raddest shit, but being old as fuck. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
dope.
Cool.
Shout out to Mel Davis.
sick.
Basketball camps.
Yeah.
So an A&B Sound, was this like, so when you came in, you also said that you were a Bjork fan. Where do you, like, I kind of have like quartered myself for so long or whatever, just being like a fan of like one genre specific of music or whatever. Now I'm like opening the doors or whatever. Does anything goes in your player? Or?
You know what? When I worked at A&B Sound, there was we had a deal with the local like insurance corporation, like with ICBC, and so basically when people, because back in those days, people carried their entire fucking music library in a
Hell
wallet
yeah.
in their car.
Right. Oh,
And so if you
yes,
had good
yes.
insurance and your car got robbed, you would get your CDs replaced.
Whoa,
So some
nice.
people would come into the store and they'd be like, "I've got 400 credits. What should I listen to?"
Sick.
And so you just get to
Damn.
curate
That's
someone's
pretty
collection.
fun.
And it was
Oh,
like,
wow.
you know,
That's cool.
they'd have ideas of what they like already, and then you could just build stuff out from that. So
You're
it
just the
Yeah.
algorithm.
That
for
would
them.
be
You
sick.
are the
Yeah.
algorithm.
yeah, you are their
Spotify.
shuffle.
Yeah.
Their Discover Weekly for the next year of their life.
Totally.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
did
That's
that.
sick.
I saw my little sister. I was downloading a bunch of music when I came out to visit my dad one year. I was finally get to see my little sisters for a few weeks in the summer and in the wintertime. And I was listening to Rancid, Ruby Soho, and my little sister Jen was just like bouncing up and down as like a baby. And I remember like, okay, we're gonna do something with this. And I did the algorithm thing with her. Like when she was a few years older or whatever, I was just kind of throwing music at her. And I had like LimeWire set up on my dad's computer, just like a ticking time bomb, ready to fuck with that whole thing. And I just gave her like a list of all the bands that I listened to, and I made the coolest fucking human. Like she's so rad.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's like such a huge way, like to get into music. Like I said, I listened to Nirvana and these bands because my older brother listened to these bands. And I was like, oh, that's what the cool kids listen to, fucking all this stuff.
Well, my brothers listened to like Pantera and stuff like that, and they were fucking assholes. And they like, I got like bullied so hard and stuff. So then like I
Well, that's the thing. My brother wasn't
yeah.
like willingly. He would never
Totally.
have written me a list of what he listened to. Fucking, there's never a
You had to
chance. He'd
steal
like
it?
sneak
Yeah.
into his room while he
Totally.
wasn't home, and
I
he'd
love
still be
that.
like, "You touch my fucking CDs," and he
I
was like,
did do
"No,"
that.
and he's
Yeah.
like, "They're out of order." Like,
In
Totally.
Pantera's defense, Far Beyond Driven is a fucking great album, and I did steal that from my brother's room. But like finding like my own camp or whatever, like that was like the biggest thing, and it took me so long to like this is a band that you see like on everybody's patch and everybody's jacket, so like you're supposed to like them, but like I couldn't get into it at that time, or it wasn't necessarily for me and stuff like that. So you just try so hard knocking on all these doors or whatever, because like this is the umbrella of punk rock and this is what you're supposed to listen to. But then like finding what, like maybe you like a little bit more ska than you do hardcore and stuff like that. They're very vast differences of like what is under this umbrella. But I had to like find it all myself. It's so goddamn cool that you got to just like deliver somebody that.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I have a sister. I have 2 older sisters, and my eldest sister is from my dad's first marriage, and so we grew up in different provinces, and so she used to send us mixtapes.
Hell yeah.
Sick.
And so it was
that's
like that was
cool.
the fucking coolest, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
Yeah.
for sure.
and so yeah, getting
Some
to do that
almost
for other
famous
people
shit.
is the best. So we do that now on like for sibling birthdays. We make each other playlists on Spotify.
Oh, that's
Mhm.
so
Oh, rad.
dope. That's
Hell
so
yeah.
dope.
Yeah.
And because of that, did you find because from what the albums you were kind of thinking about doing for this, I mean, obviously you're Queen Synergy. It seems like you've got a pretty diverse, like you listen to a
I'm
lot of
all over
different
the
kind of
fucking
stuff.
place.
Has that always
for
been the
sure.
case?
Yeah. I mean, I was a lazy ass kid when I was little. I was just lazy as fuck. I just wanted to watch much music. That's all I ever wanted to do.
Sick.
Back when there
Yeah.
was just music videos on TV.
Yeah.
all day.
Yeah.
So there would be like
Yeah.
Rap City, and then there would be The Wedge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you'd watch shows about
Coast
and there'd be
Electric
a lot of-
Circus,
a lot
bud?
of Canadian bullshit crammed in there.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
gotta give them as it should be.
Yeah.
Dude, Buck 65's Wicked
Yeah.
and Weird on the Wedge is like
Sure.
fucking,
You know what I
to
mean?
this day, still kills.
Or like, yeah, do you remember the video for One Evening by Feist where it's her and Buck 65 dancing? It's the
Yes.
cutest thing you've ever seen. in
Oh,
your life.
no,
Anyways.
cool.
But yeah, I just like, I've just always been like a music nerd. That's all I ever really gave a fuck about.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you
And so,
do
yeah,
play
it
a
just
little
like
bit.
gives you a taste for all sort of different genres. But you mentioned Bjork specifically. I did consider. I just thought it would be weird. I was looking at the list of other albums.
Oh,
that you
yeah.
guys have done. I was like, Bjork would be a fucking curveball. Homogenic or Post. Anyone out there? You should.
That might be the
go check
second
it out.
biggest curveball next to Darcy Boone Collins' Randy Newman's album.
Randy, yeah,
Definitely.
we were convinced that he was doing a bit.
I
thought it
We
was
came
when you
in,
guys
we were
talked
like,
about it. I
thought he
wasn't-
was
I
gonna
wasn't
come
sure yet,
in
yeah.
like with the whole thing, and then he sat down. He was like, "Fuck both of you. This is a great album."
I've literally talked to him about it since because I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh man, you're a big Randy Newman." Because I'm like, "Yeah, he's one of these dudes. Just like it's undeniable. It's like he's written all these songs, but it's like I'm not gonna fucking put on a Randy Newman album. But like,
Yeah,
it's really really good. But I think it's great.
It was so funny because listening to it in the like, I'm like, what is he gonna say about this? And then not expecting him to come in and be like, it's the greatest album of all time.
Yeah, he did
I
great.
love that so much.
He did a great
Yeah, right,
take
it's
on
so
it.
great.
Yeah, right.
Because if I pictured Darcy Boone Collins walking, I hear Randy Newman playing. You know what I mean? It's like I get it. I just get it.
100%.
Oh, that's so true.
I think it was. I think Ellen Williams said Darcy Boone Collins walks like a farmer on his way to fix a fence post. Just perfect.
that was Ryan who said that.
What's that, sorry?
Who said that?
I think that was Ellen Williams.
Oh, okay.
Oh
Yeah,
my
that's
God.
fucking hilarious.
Oh, that's so
Oh my
funny.
god, that's so good.
Oh man, so where does when does comedy come in, Steve? Because like since we were saying that since we've all started, you've been a fixture here.
Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
doing it for like 7 years now. I think.
Okay.
I've been doing it long enough. Now
I remember
that when-
seeing you way before I did comedy. I've only been doing it for like 4 years, but I was like, I definitely remember seeing you before.
I
Oh,
remember,
yeah.
like I've been doing it long enough now that when I tell people, like when people I know or I've known for years ask about it, they're like, "Oh, still," you know.
Oh man,
Going
Like,
on 7
they
years.
they don't see like the work that goes into that. I mean, especially
Yeah.
like getting to the point that we're aspiring to. I mean, having an album and seeing your name like on headlining posters and stuff like that. Getting like what I mean, some out of town like work and stuff like that. Where are you at as far as do you ever shove that shit in their face? a little bit?
No, not
Or just
really.
say, yeah, no, still poking away.
It's still plugging away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people. I mean, I'm sure you get it too. Like people will be like, "Oh, how are your little skits?" Or you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's
Even everything
it's
called them
belittling,
skits.
but it is a
Seen that.
silly.
Everybody thinks that that I can use it. Like
Oh,
you can
right.
use you can use
that.
Oh
that.
yeah,
That's good.
everyone's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
"Oh, you're
yeah.
gonna be talking about that on stage." I'm
Yeah,
like,
sure
no.
am.
Yeah.
Can't wait
Yeah.
to share your musings on couponing.
Yeah.
And whatever. Yeah.
No, Uncle Jim, that was severely racist.
I'll get canceled as fuck if I
Yeah.
repeat that
I am not
nonsense.
repeating
way.
this
Yeah.
out of this dinner table.
I would like
Yeah.
to not be associated with you publicly.
I understand you like Jay Leno, but like
There's a
you
reason why we
ever
only
noticed
invited you to
bits
this dinner.
about Hispanics at Home Depot.
yeah.
But that being said, there is like, but I do talk about my family a lot, so it is kind of funny to like, finding the way. I don't know that like there's a joke that my dad will tell me in the truck that regardless of how funny it might be, you know what I mean? Like it's like, okay, how do I, take this from like a different lens or whatever to make this funny for everybody, right? Which is,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of jokes or whatever that it's like, is that too much work? You know what I mean? Like whose is it? But there's like you're trying to find that core of the funny and then make it, like so that the whole room could enjoy. is I think it's like a daunting task or whatever.
It's an art.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
Hey,
It definitely is.
And
but it's an
also
art.
not always possible. It's
Yeah,
a totally fine
yeah.
thing to abandon.
It totally
I
right?
feel.
That's where
Yeah,
like it's funny
totally,
because
yeah.
I think we were talking about this the other day. It's like when we're starting, you just want to make a name for yourself. You want to get to the point where you don't have to like like be at every mic or do so, you know what I mean? Like really like and the shit that really gets people talking is the wilder stuff.
Right.
And then I
Yeah.
think that like a few years into it now, like we just want to talk about stuff that like we think is funny.
yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And a lot of that is like, I'm talking about like how much debt or my relationship with like the Canada Revenue Agency. Jackie's talking about Survivor, and you're just like you're noticing.
Survivor and Blue Man Group. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But like that's exactly what you should be doing in my opinion.
Totally.
Anyways, not that
Yeah.
I'm some fucking expert, but like make specificity universal. Like just talk about what you want to and make people get into it.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what you should be doing.
And
Yeah.
it's
Sorry,
like
what do you
finding,
say
like,
like
a common-
Survivor and
Right now I'm trying to do like a lot of this stuff.
Oh,
my
your
my
debt-
relationship
his
with debt.
his
Yeah,
debt,
exactly.
yeah.
that's
Everybody's
that's
into it.
so fucking relatable.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think like when we started out too, like that wild shit, it was still like relevant to my life. And now like when I do those bits and tell those stories, it almost feels like not genuine anymore because that's like not really what my life
And then you
is
feel
anymore.
like you're
Yeah.
not. You can feel that you're
Yeah.
selling it poorly when you're telling them.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I totally
And
get
the
that.
audience feels
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Like they know when you're like, oh, this is not
Exactly.
like a
Yeah.
fucking like
Yeah.
because there are bullshit stories that I will tell that are like this
Yeah.
is just a funny made up story like
Exactly.
whatever.
Totally, yeah.
But like there are ones I'm like this is not like I don't know I don't feel this way anymore or like I don't necessarily
Yeah.
or whatever like it's
Yeah.
just not.
I've also looked at some of that stuff. Like there is like there like you're chasing like the pop that you used to get from telling that story, but if you get like trying to like rewrite it in a way that's more relevant to now, rather than just being like fuck this and like move on. You know what I mean? Like do
Right.
something
Yeah.
different.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah. You want. I get that. Like you want the same sort of pop. Like and when writing new material, but you don't want to just be repeating the same shit to get there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah. Sometimes I guess advancing means taking smaller laughs for a period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's what actually when we had Marito on, he was talking about that. He was like, he got to a point where you have to be okay with just like bombing or not doing as well as you're used to with when you're just throwing shit at the wall, and that's how you ultimately get better. But you have to be.
I mean,
yeah.
the thing like there are some comics who, if you see them having a bad set, they don't look pressed at all about you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can see
yeah.
someone who's totally loose eating shit, and
Yeah.
it's like it's
There's a confidence in the
'cause
silence.
I
that's so
am not like
cool.
that at all. I'm 7 years in the game, and when I start to bomb, I go louder and faster. That's my
Yeah.
only move.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, you don't like gay sex stuff? I don't have a lot of other gears. Guys. This is what we're finishing.
Yeah, the
Start
next 7 minutes are gonna
antagonizing
be
the audience. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There was a week that Jackie was just calling the motherfuckers and like you guys suck or whatever. Like,
Call them pieces of shit.
shit,
Fuck
yeah.
you guys.
When did you start feeling like obviously you're more comfortable now when that happens where you're just like yeah you'll just fucking whatever like that at what point because I'm only just feeling a little bit now I still Kate I'm like oh go back to the fucking Panama joke
Oh, for
or
sure.
whatever like that whenever
Yeah.
it's not going so well I don't beat myself up as much as I used to like leave steaming like
Yeah,
I would
right.
like be like punching bushes and stuff on my way from the Yucks open mic like, just like literally flipping out on the street. It's like fuck, like it's like and like people will be like, "What happened in this guy's life?" It's like, "Oh,
It's a bad
I had
5 minutes.
I
My
had a
joke
bad
only
5.
got a 7 out of 10
Yeah, I had a
left.
bad 5.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb.
I
Yeah.
mean, everyone does though. Like everyone, it's
Well, not
it's such-
everyone.
it's such- well, no, that's true. Some are way more confident.
They get off, they're like,
And
"I
you-
fucking
and you
cried."
admire
Oh
it.
my
Yeah,
God,
I
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I think it's okay. It's okay to. It's okay to. You just got like you said, you get better at shrugging it off.
Has your
Yeah.
process changed at all? Like throughout this, through like 7 years, do you have like a specific like I write on this day or like I fucking do it?
I'm
Like,
so uneven with it. I've never applied like a regular practice for a great period of time. It's writing is like meditating. Like I fuck around with it in
Yeah.
in spurts here and
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But I'll try and implement a practice of like do 30 minutes a day, like write with prompts, just do journal entries, just write something every day.
Yeah.
Because my process has always been like long form bits that then I
Yeah.
try to whittle down to
Yeah.
jokes.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of just the same. But I am certainly no more prolific than I was at any point in since I've started.
Hey, you're pretty goddamn
Yeah.
prolific right now, my friend. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mean, I'm getting enough of stuff there. We're kind of getting to the point where like longer sets are coming in, and it's almost the like the start out phase isn't enough time to like work out the ideas in a sense, right? Like going to like a 5-minute open mic spot isn't as beneficial now as you know what I mean, having the time to like spread your legs and work at the same time. On the other hand, stretch your legs. What is it? Spread your wings.
Spread your legs.
Your legs.
Spread your legs and work, not just spread your legs. Spread your wings and fly, legs and work. I got it.
I don't understand how you guys get the job done, but that's the way that I'm fucking holding
See, these
it down.
noobs have never turned a trick in their life. Cool, you're better than us.
All right. But with that, with that being said, so then you kind of have to like find ways to like chisel out.
Well, and comics
like
have to be
work,
fucking
right?
patient with themselves extra over the last few years. Like in
Oh, yeah.
Vancouver, there's fucking nowhere for you to work. You know, like there's
Exactly,
There,
yeah.
I mean,
We had to
not that
start
there
our
are
own
no
shows
rooms. There are a
to
lot
do
of people out there hustling hard to produce rooms, and they're doing a great job.
there's
But
not a
there,
club.
considering pre-pandemic numbers, where there was an open mic every single night of the week, if not multiple on a couple nights of the week, and there were way more rooms plus 2 actual functioning comedy clubs working in this city.
Yeah.
And now like it's in a rebuilding phase, but people have to be kind to themselves that there's just not no one's getting enough stage time, so we have to kind of we just have to kind of like figure it out on our own.
Oh yeah, well we went nuts. That's why we started like producing our own shows and
producing-
stuff. We've got
which,
other
like-
stuff on the horizon.
Yeah,
and things
which
too,
like sucks to do because I hate producing.
pain in the
shows.
ass.
It's
I
so
think about it
stressful,
all the time, and I will probably never do it. Like I want to,
Yeah,
I want to contribute something to the Vancouver comedy scene. Like I did run an open mic, the grimmest open mic in Vancouver for 2 years. So I have done.
You put the
You've
fucking
done
time.
your time.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
been a minute.
yeah.
That was years ago. So I would love to produce a show, but I don't fucking want to.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
the thing.
Yeah,
Is that
it's a
not
ton
fun
of work.
to
I
do.
just recently stepped down from with comedy rank of just like for this year. I'm just like I just like it was literally like 5 shows a week, and then I'm like I'll be honest with you, I want to do comedy. I don't want to fucking produce
Yeah, don't want to
shows.
deal with the bullshit.
And like it allows you to
Yeah.
do comedy, but then it reaches a point where you're not really doing it. And it's like, oh, suddenly you're just kind of worrying about doing the shows, and you're not doing the shows that you're fucking producing, and you're like, well, this
Yeah.
is fucking dumb.
Well,
Like, what am
was
I?
your time better spent like writing jokes or having a conversation and being like, who is a good lineup on this night? And that sucks.
Yeah, and then like,
Just
the
stressing about fucking
Exactly,
ticket
the
sales.
stress
Or the
of-
politics
Ticket
behind it.
sales,
Is
cancellations, all
having
dealing
a
with
cancel-
club
people mad at you
owners.
for not giving them time.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
someone
Yeah,
who's
the
to deal
gone,
with
constant-
telling people who's maybe not ready.
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
who's gone
It
out
would
of the
be tough,
restaurant
man.
industry. I
Yeah,
have no
constant
interest in
messages.
negotiating with restaurant managers again in my
That
life.
dealing with
I'm
the
like, I'm
venues,
fucking done with it.
yeah. Yeah.
Like I did this forever. I'm
Yeah.
good. Like,
And
We
it's
were really
like-
lucky with the open mic that we ran because the venue had no expectations. They were making 0 money on that night, and they had a beautiful stage and microphone. So they were like, "Come on in," and everyone came in and ate a dick for 2 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hear a lot of people who have nightmare venue runners, and that, what an extra bummer.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
then
Oh, I
like
guess
the,
they are trying to make money.
I
yeah,
get some.
yeah.
Like I get the money thing. To me, it was a huge. Whoa, Jesus Christ! Sorry.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah,
Ty's first day on the
New-
one
first
two.
first day
Yeah,
is producing
yeah,
with a
t-
keyboard.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing shit before. I didn't really realize this until, and like, I don't like being the person who's like, fucking, there's enough people who shit on Vancouver. I'm
Yeah.
just like, fucking scene, blah, blah,
Yeah.
fucking,
Yeah.
no one includes me, I don't get booked, and fucking blah, and all this horse shit. But I have to say, when we booked our little like road trip in the summer, I've never had an easier time finding venues
Yeah.
like to do our
Yeah.
own shit at. Was just like it was so fucking easy to do, and here it's like pulling goddamn teeth. Like to find a similar room that you could find in,
So in
granted it's Kamloops
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Edmonton.
Yeah.
Forget it. Like for the amount of money it would cost to rent out something like the Grindstone Theater, for example, in Edmonton. To do that here would be like thousands of dollars compared to $100.
Well, it's
Right.
keeping good
That's the
shows
thing,
up. We've tried to do it with we're trying to incorporate like music with the show and stuff, maybe live podcast or comedy and music and stuff like that afterwards would be sweet. But these venues that
Like
that are
the
doing music
prices are
Jesus
just
Christ.
like
But then I'll do get it from a business standpoint where it's
Fuck
like,
yeah.
they need to pay outlandish rent at this fucking place. So if it's
Right.
like every
Yeah.
night isn't a fucking super success,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or they can't bring a DJ in like
Well,
late
that's-
night to
yeah.
pay.
Yeah. Can't get a trivia night.
Yeah, we're getting priced out by trivia.
But I
Yeah.
mean, we've got to be fucking cheaper than drag, at
Right?
least.
Yeah. True, yeah.
But it's not as good as a show as a drag
No,
show.
we're not nearly as
Exactly.
entertaining.
No,
That's
are you
the
It
kidding
fact.
me?
can
Like,
be, 'cause
fuck,
that's the
man,
thing.
drag shows
It's
are
like
unbelievable.
Comedy shows can be a huge bummer sometimes.
Oh my
Like,
god!
like,
Being
I
art,
get
can
it.
you imagine being
Yeah.
a business owner and just hiring
Exactly.
somebody?
Best,
I
best
get
is when
it,
a
yeah.
venue agrees to let there be a comedy show but won't charge people cover, so you are always telling jokes to people who didn't know there was going to be
Yeah.
comedy.
Surprise!
and
Oh,
they-
who doesn't
Yeah.
love a
Yeah.
surprise
Oh.
show of any kind?
Totally. Or
Favorite.
even like it's up to us, like as like newer producers or whatever. We book our friends on a last minute show as last one of the new year that we didn't realize the energy that they're going to bring in which order, and we're looking at each
Yeah.
other like, fuck. Nobody's going to be here to pick up this energy
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
People that are just at a bar on a Monday
Yeah.
at 8 p.m.
Yeah, they're like
not the
barflies.
going to show kind of people.
Yeah, they just look over and all of a sudden
Yeah.
comics are like picking on them and stuff, and they're like, "Are you
I'm just
fucking
trying to
kidding me?"
stave off the shakes because
Yeah.
I'm a functioning alcoholic.
Yeah.
Leave your
Yeah.
fuck alone.
now I got Sharon Mahoney fucking screaming
Yeah.
crazy shit
No,
at me.
no, when she does it, it's always hilarious.
Oh, it is always
She's
hilarious.
fucking
Oh,
hilarious.
yeah.
I did a
Yeah.
show with Sharon Mahoney in a restaurant that was in a hotel in Coquitlam. The Yuck Yucks was running shows out of this place for a while. I think it was the Executive Hotel. And it was a fucking bizarre setup because it's a restaurant that's also attached to the lobby. So it's like 3-story like cathedral on one side.
weird.
So like the sound is weird and there's giant flat screens on.
Yeah.
And so the middle did a bit that blew the mic out. And so we had to do the second half of the show like street like crier
Oh,
style.
fucking Sharon's like,
God.
Sharon's
yeah,
moving
No,
Scott.
and so
Fuck
I
them
was like,
away.
the thing is like they, because I was hosting, so my opening set was like didn't go super hot, but
Yeah.
then once I had to scream it for them, once they saw us like struggling, the audience was way warmer.
Of course.
And then of
Yeah.
course Sharon killed it because she's done street
Oh,
performing
yeah.
and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
She's a force. And fucking this guy in the crowd at the end that she was picking on really hard got very drunk and like all of a sudden he just kept saying women aren't funny and like at finally his wife or girlfriend wound up and clocked him across the face. I'm not talking a little lady slap, like
Yeah.
Just
his whole
fucking-
body moved.
yeah.
And, I think one of his friends took him out of there. It was
Oh,
That's-
Jesus.
Sharon sold a lot of merch that night.
Yeah,
It was
I
a
know.
very
Yeah,
uncomfortable-
Yeah, there was a bunch of
yeah.
Thunder
That's
Cunt
fucking
fucking posters
awesome.
sold that night.
Oh my god.
Hell yeah.
That's insane.
She is
Yeah.
a force. That is hilarious.
She's so
She's
fucking
so
dope.
funny,
But to
yeah.
be straight up, like I will put someone who like you in the same category of like fucking murderers who are so nice to new
Yeah.
comics when you
Yeah.
have no need to be.
Everyone should be nice to new comics.
Totally.
Everyone should be nice to new comics. I was a
Yeah,
new comic
definitely
once
not
and-
what the case is at all. But it's like
Yeah.
it amazes me how it's like it's always the people who are the fucking best who have really been the nice. It's it's the people that, to be honest, you kind of get on the same level as, or even like maybe start
could even
surpassing a
surpass,
little
yeah.
bit, and it's like that were the biggest fucking pricks like
Yeah.
ever.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a weird, I mean, like there's a weird psychology to doing stand-up comedy because a lot of us are like, we talk a very self-deprecating game, but you have to think that you have something special to hold a room's attention. If you think that your thoughts can fucking entertain strangers,
Yeah.
you must think that you're bringing something interesting to the table.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah.
So there is ego. There's a lot of ego.
Of course,
in-
it's an
in
independent art
stand-up
scene.
comic
There's
film.
going to be a lot of hurting.
And all of us are vying, especially as Canadian entertainers as well. Like we're all vying for a very small sliver. So there, but it's still unfortunate to see that kind of shittiness.
Yeah.
Just be nice to newbies because they might fucking surpass you and give you a job later.
Well, like,
Exactly,
that's the thing. Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
There's a lot of like being a plumber for 10 years. I know kids that I taught how to read a tape measure that are like running, these jobs and stuff like that. And you're gonna see that happen, and it'll kind of happen very quickly. But you do get the chance to deal with a lot of I just think like mentally ill people or something. You know what I mean? That are that there's I love to find the of the batch of like new comics or whatever. There's ones that you can tell are just like here because they don't have anything else to do, and there's ones that are kind of like you could tell are going to be great. You know what I mean? And I really like to see, there's a couple. I think like Aiden or whatever would probably be like top of that list or whatever, just kind of like bubbling to the top, or you know what I mean? And it's cool to see like because like I did it with Jackie, right? So it's like it's hard to kind of push through this muck when there's no shortage of comics and a serious shortage of stage time. You know what I mean? And like who's going to be here
Yeah.
later?
But then all perspective too, because like I hear like I'm like, well, I don't live in fucking Manitoba.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
There's even less stage time.
Well, exactly.
right.
We are
It
pretty lucky.
I thought Winnipeg had a good.
Maybe
league.
Winnipeg. Yeah, I mean, maybe a bad example. I'm like,
No,
our
no, no,
fucking
but-
Fort St. John or whatever the fuck
sure.
it is.
Yeah.
But it's like, so I'm like, I try to like, am I just bumming myself out
I
here?
think
And it's
we
like,
might
you've
be.
got fucking.
Well, I mean, even before the pandemic and all of the sort of like venue shutdowns, there was already a problem because Vancouver is so expensive, and so a lot of comics get priced out and move back to the cities they came from, or to other more affordable cities.
Yeah, we've seen
Yeah.
an
But it's just been
exodus,
exacerbated because of the pandemic as well.
Yeah, that's happened on a huge
But
scale
I think there's hope. Like it does feel like things are rebuilding. Like Comedy After Dark is a fucking proper comedy club. You know, like we have one solid all the time comedy venue. There are open mics building. Like I think
Yeah,
there
there's
are
some
lots of
other
hungry people
great
and-
independent shows like happening too, and they're just like, people are just like, they're truly like they're trying. Like people are trying to do it, so I can't really like shit. And I'm a whore for stage time, so I'll do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah.
And there's another
Yeah.
thing too, is that like I think we get like lost in the city. What me and Jackie kind of done is like we're branching out a little bit. We went to comedy and we're doing ours to Coquitlam, and started doing like a monthly out there, and I mean people are fucking thanking us. You know what I mean? For even like coming
Well,
out
and I
and
mean,
stuff like
even,
that.
you
right?
know,
Which is
there's Yuck Yucks in Surrey. When will this podcast be online?
probably next Monday.
Next Monday?
Monday,
Yeah.
not this coming Monday, but the following.
It could be this coming Monday. Yeah, we have. It's.
What are we gonna plug?
I
What are
can,
we gonna
I
plug?
can, I can
Well,
maybe
I
like
was
this-
just mentioning
Yeah.
servicing comedy in the outlying communities. I will be headlining Surrey Yuck Yucks
Oh,
on the
sick.
13th and 14th of January. So
Oh,
looks like this one's coming out on the
sick.
night.
Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be out on
It's
Monday,
a huge
yeah.
underserved. Like it's crazy that there haven't been more comedy nights out in Surrey over the years. So
Totally.
Yuck Yucks having the sort of issues that they had with the venue in Vancouver has since moved out, and they're running it out of the casino there. And there's a there's
Are they
that
going to
too.
do it at Hastings Racehorse too now?
Yeah, they're doing one
Or
at
racetracks.
Hastings on Fridays, I think, as well.
They're doing it on the racehorse. So.
It's in the middle of the track as the horses run around the corner.
Half-time shows when they shoot one for breaking a leg.
Yeah, so it's there's stuff, and it's good to be serving the sort of outlying communities as well, not just Vancouver proper.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's so much. Anytime I've done a gig like in White Rock or fuck any of that
Oh,
shit, it's
so
always
It's always a
it's
great
awesome.
time.
It's always
Yeah,
super great
people are
because it's
so
like there's
stoked
not
to
as much
have,
shit
like,
going
shows
out
going
there.
on there.
And you
yeah.
mentioned Kamloops earlier. Like some of the best shows of my life have been in fucking Kamloops.
Yeah, well, that
Oh,
fucking
man,
Effie,
audiences
that
were
Effie
The
theater.
Effie
Shit.
there is
That
so
Effie theater was
cool.
like the best. That was a fucking insane show. Like it
Yeah.
was
Totally.
insane how awesome it was. Great deal, great people to work with. Like super fair door deal. Like the whole fucking thing was awesome.
I think it's an eye opener too.
We'll be
just getting out
back.
of
We'll be
town.
back in April.
Hell yeah.
We will be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's
I'll
I
be
think
back
that-
there later this month actually with
Oh,
OK
hell
Dope.
yes.
I'll be in Kamloops and Vernon and Salmon Arm and Kelowna.
Sick.
Oh,
yeah.
hell yeah.
Fuck
that's
yeah!
awesome.
That whole little stretch is really cool. We had a fucking
Yeah.
blast out that way.
Yeah,
That was
they have a
something
great
that was
scene.
new to us this year, of just like getting out of
Out of
even the
Vancouver.
surrounding areas and like, because telling fucking dick and poop jokes in other towns is where it's at. It's so fun. It's so much fun.
I do get like a little paranoid because my material is very gay, so I have
Mm-hmm.
this like stupid, outdated idea of like these hillbillies are gonna like,
Yeah.
pitchfork and torch me out of here.
Yeah.
And like,
Oh,
I
no,
mean,
Craig's
But
Let's
then you go to
move on
Calgary, and I was like,
I don't want to jinx myself before this tour, but
Yeah.
it hasn't happened yet. And more
Yeah.
often than not, they're like, it's just underserved, under-entertained people who
Totally.
just love to laugh.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're gonna find them all over the place, and it's gonna be sweet to get to them more frequently. You know.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Exactly.
And that's the shit. So I mean, I guess you plugged everything that you want.
Shamelessly, and I thank you for allowing it.
Oh my
Of
God!
course.
Please.
Of
We'll put all the
course.
links to everything down there. We
Yep.
have listeners out in that neck of the woods. So if you're not
Do.
gonna go see Steve, then you suck, and you can die.
Okay. Okay.
I said that. I don't care if you have
Yeah.
prior
I co-sign that
engagements.
statement.
I don't care. Yeah, you cancel your fucking plans, right? Prior engagements mean nothing anymore because Steve Letts is coming to town.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on,
you so
man.
much.
It's
Thanks
been
for
a
having me,
blast.
guys.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank
All right.
you. Peace.